Welcome back to another video. Today we are talking about Record of Grancrest War, Episode 19, The Awakening of a Noble. Now this was all about the Union leader, Alexis. We finally get to see what he's like when he goes into battle. The first one is like just kind of a glimpse of how he fights, or at least his battle strategy, and that's against Bernard Durum. And at first Bernard's like freaking out. He tries to get help from Marine, but she's too busy with fighting off the treaty of Electric fighters, so she can't send help. So he decides to, you know what? I'm gonna try and cut a truce or alliance with Alexis, but he's not having any of that. He basically says, oh, I'll let him live, but he has to surrender to me and surrender his crest and territory. And he doesn't want that, so they end up fighting. And it's kind of like a work of art about how Alexis fights. It's kind of like he's creating a masterpiece of art. And once Bernard realizes that he has no chance, he says, raise the white flag, which basically means surrender. Now, this is for the most well, actually next, Marine finds out and she is stricken with grief that Alexis has entered the fight, because it's just about to go down. She also has the Nordic King warned to avoid Alexis at all costs, but the Nordic King is cocky and thinks he can take him. Oh boy, was he wrong, and you'll find out why. Now, before I go on, this is going to get pretty brutal. So, like, I know my third image will have a giant, like, pool of blood. So if you're not good with blood, just be careful. We finally get to see the Sea King, or the Nordic Sea King Eric, also known as the Nordic King. And he definitely looks like a stereotypical Viking. He looks nothing like his daughter, which makes me kind of wonder what his wife looks like, or at least his daughter's mother. The next thing is that his battle flag, also like the Rossini's, makes his men go crazy. The only difference is that we get to see that this actually works on himself as well. And the Nordic King suffers a heavy loss that was even his own top 3 officials are saying, retreat, retreat, retreat. But he's not having any, and he increases the battle flag strength, making them go crazy with rage and power, and making himself go crazy with power. But granted, it seems that the Nordic King has a bit more control over it. And he uses his giant axe, and a lot of people get cut in half. Horizontally, vertically, sideways. He grabs onto a lot of people and just crushes the head. It was brutal. Luckily, with some censorship from, I assume, Japan, this was really only blood, no guts like that, so that kind of lessened the blow of how brutal it was. But I gotta say, one of the most brutal things in this episode was the Nordic King taking one of those giant harpoons, like for whaling, to the chest. Yeah, I'm not sure what they're called, but they're like those giant harpoons you fire from a makeshift crossbow. You could use it for like whales or like other ships. Yeah, he takes one is shot at his back and it goes through his chest. It was brutal. And yet that's not what killed him. If that would have been any other of these anime characters, that probably would have killed them. Even some of the other anime I watched, that would have killed them in one shot. Well, I can think of one where he would have survived, but he's kind of immortal, so it doesn't really count. And seeing this, Alexis is just saddened seeing the state that the Sea King Eric is in. Like what, and just what he's wondering what drove him to this. Next thing was Alexis also has his own like little shadow or assassin, whatever you want to call him, like Irvin. We can see this because of how she fights. She fights a lot like Irvin, using knives, staying her distance. The Nordic King is finally defeated after he gets his head chopped off. And yeah, that's not. Yeah, even that was the most brutal thing. Because we don't really get to see the head get chopped off, but we see the harpoon go through his chest. The most freaky part is that after he gets his head chopped off, he sure takes a few more steps. Yeah, the Nordic King was a monster. Just what drove him to be like this? It seems like we will never know. My theory is that it was greed, but I could be wrong. And this kind of freaks out Alexis. He almost faints seeing all the blood. Which is kind of understandable considering he saw his own father get decapitated right in front of him during the Great Hall Tragedy. He ends up taking the Nordic King's crest, and this ends up. And then finally, we get to see Saluka and Marine having a conversation, saying, "Just stop the fighting, make a treaty with the Union, and make a truce with the Elite and the Arctic Treaty to stop this needless fighting." Because apparently, all three sides are now equal, with the Nordic King and Mirza being dead. But Marine's like, no, I should have my reserve troops. Which, you just lost two of your strongest fighters. Take the easy way out. Stop this needless... I don't know why she wants to stop this needless fighting. Like, Saluka even thinks that it was somebody from the Mage Academy that summoned the demon during the Great Hall Tragedy. And Marine doesn't deny this. She thinks that it could be true as well, and thinks that within the next coming battle, all will be revealed. Which is basically saying that we're going to find out within the next episode or two who summoned the demon and who the true villain is. That's all I want to say for this. Like, this was a very interesting episode. We got to see Alexis's potential as a leader. And things are finally tying up. The next episode is called Pitched Battle of the Three Forces. My theory is that we will find out who summoned the demon at the Great Hall Tragedy, and that's when things will flip-flop, and it'll be the three sides versus whoever summoned them. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. Hit that like button. If you're new to the video, new to the channel, my bad, click subscribe and turn on notifications. This has been Byrand, and I am signing off.